Alright, so I wrote another alternate ending to the movie The Gambler. At this scene,
Yes.
right here, where he puts it all in black. And of course it lands on black. But in my ending, it doesn't land on black. Alright. My alternate ending. I wanted to see it land on red, and right when the roulette wheel stops, a hard crowbar to the stomach that he doesn't see coming from the guy to his left, and he bends over in severe pain, gasping for air. Then a very hard knee to the face. See where this is going right away?
Yeah.
Then a very hard knee to the face by the same guy while he's bent over, and as he goes flying back, blood flies out of his nose all over the wheel and the table, and this really pisses off the head honcho Chinese guy. And he stands up and grabs a nearby hot iron, like the guy that's sitting there eating the rice.
Yeah.
He has an iron plugged in, like, just in case. Grabs a hot iron that's been plugged in for a while that he had ready just in case, and walks over to Wahlberg. The camera shows him barely conscious on the ground, barely moving, having serious trouble breathing, and bleeding all over the floor. He bends over quickly and starts burning the fuck out of Mark Wahlberg's cheek while looking like he's having a seizure, screaming at the top of his lungs. He burns his face for about 10 seconds, pressing really hard, and at the 5-second mark into it, John Goodman says, "Okay, stop. It's my turn now." So that's when he stops. It shows the Chinaman remove the iron, and Wahlberg's face looks horrendous. One side on one side, but the other side is still fine. Goodman walks up to him, picks him up by his shirt, and says, "You haven't even begun to see the level of fuck you deserve. And there's still a problem. I can I can still recognize you." Then he headbutts him as hard as he can, right on the bridge of the nose, breaking Wahlberg's nose, bleeding everywhere, even more now. Then nods to his two guys, and his two personal goons come over and grab one arm each, but Wahlberg starts to regain some fight in him and grabs Goon 2's nuts and twists them while saying, "Fuck you!" And that guy can be seen bending over, holding his nuts, but Goon 2... but Goon 2 has a cattle prod handy and prods Wahlberg in the chest, and he starts flopping around on the ground, blood pouring out of his nose. Then Goodman steps in Goon 2's place because he still hasn't recovered from the nut grab, and then helps Goon 1 drag him into another room while everyone else in the room follows. They drag him up to a metal chair bolted in the ground, because you're not really in the tied up to a chair.
Everything's just prepared in advance.
Just in case. Alright. They drag him up to a metal chair bolted into the ground and tie him to it with wire. Each one of his legs to each leg of the chair, a wire around his femurs wrapping around the center of the chair, a wire wrapping around his chest to the back of the chair, and wires holding each hand to the arms of the chair. To the left and the right can be seen a table full of shit sitting on it. Goodman says, "So many things I could start with, but good thing I already know what order to go in." You know what a good man I am. You know, because
Yeah, Goodman. You know what a good man I am.
Where was I?
Down 2 lines.
Yeah, you know what a good man I am. He grabs a syringe already full of something and says, "This is adrenaline in the syringe, so you won't be passing out on us." And and injects Wahlberg with it and waits a minute. Wahlberg starts regaining consciousness more and wants to say something, but half of his mouth is fused, cauterized shut from the iron and can't talk. They lure down a giant vise over his head by turning a giant wheel and sticks as much of his hair in it as possible and tightens the clamps around his hair. They then slowly start to turn the vice wheel to go back in the upwards direction, and it starts pulling Wahlberg's hair tighter and tighter, and you begin to hear him scream bloody murder through the half of his mouth that is not fused shut. The camera shows it all. Once the hair is so tight, they start turning the crank extra slow, and slowly you can see his scalp ripping off his skull along with the hair. And after a 1 minute long scene of this, and the entire scalp is removed and the bloody skull is showing, Goodman snaps his fingers. Goodman snaps his fingers, and Goon 2, who is finished recovering from the nut grab by now, pulls a bottle of bleach off the table and slowly dumps it on his skull. And Wahlberg screams so loud that his mouth unfuses shut and opens fully for the scream. They all stand there watching the bleach burn his scalp, screaming bloody murder for 1 minute, and it shows the entire duration of the minute. So they're just all standing there watching him scream just for 1 minute.
A 1 minute scream.
Yeah. Then they take off his shoes, grab a compressed air blower off table A, and start blowing very high pressured air at his feet from 5 feet away at first, then start slowly moving the air gun closer and closer to his feet, and Wahlberg starts screaming louder than ever, and the camera shows the skin on his feet start ripping off of his feet. They keep moving the air gun closer and closer, slower and slower, and more skin starts tearing off until you can see the muscles starting to rip off. And then eventually, after 2 minutes, so it takes them 2 minutes to get from 5 feet away to eventually like 1 inch away.
Whoa.
So slowly they're moving it, and it's showing the camera's just showing the skin.
And showing it flying off everywhere.
Yeah.
Down to the bone, like a skeleton foot.
Eventually you can see the muscles start ripping off, and then eventually after 2 minutes move the air gun so close that so close to his foot that everything rips off down to the bone. By now Wahlberg is just screaming nonstop over and over at the top of his lungs, and they all stand there watching him scream and cry for 2 minutes, and then Goodman snaps his fingers. Goodman snaps his fingers again, and and Goon 2 grabs a chainsaw off table B and starts up the chainsaw and hands it to Goodman. And Goodman slowly saws off both Wahlberg's legs right above the knees, and blood starts flying everywhere while he does it.
Oh.
After he gets his legs cut off, Goon 1 is seen pulling a round steel file out of a kiln.
Oh, into the bone marrow?
Kiln. Sitting on a table A with tongs exactly the size in circumference of the inside of a femur bone, and hands the tongs with the red hot rod in them to Goodman. And Goodman says, "Quit your fucking whining. You haven't even begun to feel pain yet." As
It's like a red hot railroad spike getting hammered into his bone marrow, basically.
As he slowly starts moving the hot rod closer and closer to Wahlberg's sawed-off nubs, Wahlberg can be seen saying, "Wait, no, stop! Wait, don't!" And right after "don't," Goodman starts slowly sliding rod 1 into the hollow core of Wahlberg's femur bone, and now Wahlberg screams so loud with the most intense, horrific look on his face he could possibly make, with his eyes bugging out of his head. It shows the rod slowly slide into his bone 8 inches of the way, while you can hear his marrow sizzle, and then Wahlberg just passes out and goes limp. Goodman says, "Wait, what the fuck? We're not supposed to. We're not even close to done." I thought you said he wasn't going to be able to pass out. To Goon 1. Goon 1 checks Wahlberg's pulse and says, "He's dead. He must have had a heart attack or something." Goodman chuckles a little bit and says, "I knew he was a fucking pussy." I knew he was a fucking pussy. Okay, well, untie him and drag him over to the trash compactor, while Goon 1 and 2 do, while Goodman says, "Now I really wish I would have pulled out all his teeth with pliers first while he was alive, because it's not going to be nearly as much fun while he's dead." Because, you pull the teeth out.
Yeah.
Demo records. As he's seen walking behind them with pliers, they get him up to right in front of the giant motorized trash compactor and lay him on his back, and Goodman starts humming a tune while pulling Wahlberg's teeth out and putting all the teeth in a jar. It shows this for 2 minutes, him ripping his teeth out before they're all out, and then he unzips his pants. "Everyone in here get in line to say your fuck yous to our friend here." Because, fuck you is the theme.
Yeah.
And starts peeing all over Wahlberg's face. Everyone there gets in line. And then it shows a 2-minute scene of everyone there taking their turn pissing on his face. Then Goon 1 and 2 are seen putting gloves on, throwing Wahlberg's tore-up ass into the trash compactor and starting it. You can see Wahlberg getting slowly crushed in there while Goodman is talking to the Chinese guy. "Now I'm going to have to wipe out his entire bloodline." Because, in the earlier, he said he's going to wipe out his entire bloodline.
Pay, yeah.
His entire bloodline, and it's not going to be easy. "Can you help me?" And the guy says, "Gladly." And then Goodman says, okay, let's get to it. I know where to start and who to start with." As they're all seen walking out of the room, the cast rolls up, and then the entire next movie sequel to this, called The Gambler's Left Behind Legacy, is all about Goodman and his crew successfully wiping out Wahlberg's bloodline in the most gruesome ways possible. And all of this just because a ball rolling around randomly on a wheel landed on the wrong color. Just because a ball rolling around on a wheel lands on the wrong color.
That'd be funny. That'd be funny if. It'd be funny if like he
family.
kept passing out like every like 10 seconds. They keep giving him another shot of adrenaline just to wake him up, and he'd pass out and wake up and go and pass out again. They give him another shot and we go And you know what? That's what's funny is
die from shock.
Yeah, what's funny is like I would have started the same story the exact same way, except I imagined it instead of a crowbar. As soon as the wheels stopped rolling, all of a sudden like Goon 1 just like swings a ball peen hammer right onto the top of his hand really hard, like that's the first hit. That's what I was imagining, but I like yours. Here, I didn't turn it off yet. I love that, dude.
They make a sequel. They make a sequel just because there's one line of John Goodman saying, "I'm gonna wipe out your entire bloodline if you can't." The sequel is like just because he said that.
Like the Gambler, the remake of the remake. The remake of the remake.
Yeah.